Howdy, Ags. Welcome to Aggie Growth Hacks, the podcast sponsored by the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M that is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs improve their business, connect with other Aggie entrepreneurs, and support one another. I'm your host, Greg Martin, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2001.
And I'm your co-host, Chris Hunter, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 1998. Whoop.
Well, we got a little story for you, Ags. Shannon Cagle, Fighting Texas Aggie class of 92, is the Director of Business Development for Keen Coverage Insurance, an insurance company that is breaking the mold by pulling together additional service providers that every entrepreneur needs. While this is innovative, it also requires an amazingly strong staff and very good systems.
So pass it back and listen up to Shannon as he shares some good bull.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us on Aggie Growth Hacks. We are excited to have you, to meet you, to learn about Keen Coverage Insurance. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Keen Coverage and what y'all do and services that you provide?
Sure. And thank you guys for having me on today. Keen Coverage, we're an independent insurance agency based out of Keller, Texas, but we are opening up an office in the Woodlands area, and hopefully one soon in College Station.
Come back home.
Right, exactly. So we do insurance. I mean, we can do all different types of insurance. Right now, we've tried to focus on, business insurance. Originally, I moved back down here to the Woodlands area last December to start up an office, and we were doing, a lot of personal lines. So, home, auto, that was, our big focus. Well, of course, last year, a lot of that changed. The insurance industry here in Texas, made it even harder and more difficult to try to get those done. Those, several carriers that pulled out or stopped production here. And so we had to pivot, so one of the main things about being an entrepreneur, I think, is, change is the only constant out there. And so we're still doing the others, but we started focusing more on commercial and, small business insurance.
That's awesome. So let's dig a little bit more into that. When you say commercial insurance, who's your best client that you work with? Like who do you serve the best?
So, really, we've got all facets. So restaurants, we deal with a lot of, doctors, dentists, veterinary clinics, a lot of commercial contractors. So electricians, plumbers, HVAC companies. So it's pretty rounded in that area. That's, I guess one good thing from, being as an independent agency previously was, spent 4 years with a company that was a captive agency, and the boxes were a lot smaller, where, now as an independent agency, we have, a lot more room to, help serve, as many people as we can, really. And then we're doing the general liability for those businesses, commercial auto, errors and emissions, several different products there.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I'm constantly talking with the companies that I serve is making sure that you have the right type of insurance coverage. You can very quickly have a fear mentality and be insurance poor, have a whole lot of insurance that you may or maybe not need. But really to be able to have someone like you as the trusted advisor to be able to be like, okay, well, let's assess the risk and let's look at the different options. That is super critical in today's world where so much is coming at you. And this stuff is not easy. I mean, it is not easy to understand and comprehend. And, how come this is covered, but the same exact thing that seems similar is not covered? You literally need to be able to speak insurance.
Yes. And it's been changing, the last 12 months, a lot has changed. And so, we're having to go through full underwrites where, previously, we weren't. A lot of it can be done online. And so the process is taking a little longer. The insurance underwriting is digging deeper, looking at those risks that you're talking about. And that's why, we really try to put it together and educate, the business owners, because that's not their day to day. They're out running their business. Insurance is just, something that's an expense that they have to their bottom line. And so, I don't even, go into price. It's like you were talking about, it's like, what's the risk? If this happens, am I going to be able to cover it, or is it going to put me out of business? And so, we try to go through that, go through the things that they, feel like they want to be covered for. And then also, trying to open up some other doors and say, well, have you ever thought about this happening? That's something that I get from a lot of the underwriters is like, show me some real live, send me a claim, show me a claim from, a doctor's office or a dental office or a veterinarian office. And, we'll get 3 or 4 examples. I can say, okay, well, here's something that really happened. And
yeah, it's not a scare tactic. This is legit. This actually could happen.
And this is how, we mitigated that risk so that, they were able to, continue their business and not have, some catastrophe that's going to shut them down. So that's, our big point from that. It's not just like a, used car salesman trying to just, sell the cheapest insurance out there and keep going to the next person, because eventually something will happen and you want to make sure that you don't want to be overcovered, but you don't want to be undercovered either.
Yeah. And so speaking of which, right? So I've got a friend, and I'm going to go way off script here, by the way. This isn't part of any of the questions that we sent over, any of that kind of stuff. But so I've got a buddy that is also, an insurance agency owner, and he just always has the most awesome stories. Obviously, he doesn't give us the details of the person or business or anything like that. But what's your craziest story that you have that goes along in with the insurance line of stuff?
Well, the one that comes to mind, I had 2 partners that own 5 pizza restaurant locations, and we'd had their insurance for about a year. And before the next renewals, we sat down and started, talking with them and saying, okay, what do you want to change? And of course, went back to price, and it's like, all right, well, let's look at some things that we could take down. One item on there is, how much cash that you keep on hand at the store. And they're like, we hardly have any, we do drops, at the bank every day. What do you think? What's the minimum? I said, well, $2,500. And they're like, okay, let's put that down. I'm not kidding you. 2 weeks later, one of their locations in the middle of Dallas got broken into. They stole the safe. They were out of town at a conference in California at the time. So nobody had made deposits for 3 days, and they had $12,500 stolen. So what ends up happening is they can file a claim. We're going to pay $2,500, and they're still out $10,000. And that only made a difference of about, it was under $100 a month difference to the policy. So that's the type of thing, that, and then we've had some other, I've been really lucky that, we haven't had some crazy stuff. We did have a bunch of like busted pipes, like during the freeze back in February 21. And, fortunately, it was all covered, but it was just it was like one call after another going, our pipes burst and we got 6 inches of water in our restaurant. What do we do? And so,
and turn the water off.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. First thing, shut the water off. But that's, those are the type of things that, we try to look at and say, okay, mitigate the worst case scenario circumstance, and then, go from there.
Well, Shannon, with a lot of those different industries, a lot of those different lines that you carry, the different types of insurance, I mean, you've got to have a pretty robust team or system behind you. Tell us a little bit about, your team, who does what, how have you assembled them, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. So we do have, a lot of back office from that standpoint. So we have people that, do quotes just on, like personal home and auto lines. We have some that do only, business quotes, like a general liability policy, and getting those people. And it's, it's finding the different backgrounds, like you're talking about, of, what their experience level's been. We use a lot of automation on, that as well. So we have a system that, does quote rating. And so, we put all the information in there, and then it'll come back and give us a list of, 5 or 10 different carriers. And then from there, it's like, which one is going to be the better one to go with? Who do we know, for sure it's going to be fair and pay a claim and not have to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to, get a, claim paid. And then also, the ease of working with them, what they have on their, backside of a portal or platform that our clients can actually use easily to get into, as well. And so, but you learn through those systems. There's different carriers out there that, like certain things over, others. So there's one that I know that if we do a property policy, they like it to have a brand new roof. So if you have a roof that's less than 5 years old, you're going to get better premium pricing because of that. So there's different markets in there, bringing those people on. And right now, it's been a challenge because we're pretty remote. We've got several people that we're not going into an office every day, so we're having to use Zoom, Teams, and stuff like that to make sure that we're going through the process.
So have you guys since 2020? This is a lot of people are still talking about remote work from home and, being able to have that flexibility, but then you offset that with how do you manage your company culture? How do you build your company culture? You've got some of the bigger corporations that are demanding coming in X number of days, and sometimes people are liking that. Sometimes people are revolting from that. So it sounds like you guys are still remote from 2020, or were you remote before then?
No, before 2020, everybody was in the office and it was, an office atmosphere. And then through that, actually in 2020, we started having 8 a.m. Zoom calls, every day so that everybody was still up and, trying to focus on that. And it was something else because we had people that were not only were they doing their jobs, but they also became teachers of their kids and making sure that they did their schoolwork and everything, as well. And so we fit that in. But it goes back to before I had an hour and 15-minute commute to go, 24 miles. And so you spend a lot of time, in the vehicle. Well, working remote cuts that out. You go from the bedroom to the kitchen to an office or another place that you can work, and the productivity didn't drop. And so from that point it was like, well, why continue to pay a high lease rate and start setting everything up to do remotely. Now we do have I'm in an office suite right now. We do have some mobile locations that we can use if somebody just wants to meet somebody and they don't want to go to Starbucks. We've got hours that we can use in these locations and they can actually go meet somebody, there in person. So it's kind of a combination, but not like not where we're saying, hey, you can spend 2 days at home and then the other 3 days you got to come to the office. So
interesting. So does that, like widen who you can recruit then? I mean, can you recruit outside of the state of Texas or obviously outside of Houston and
right.
so forth. But, are you looking for people, let's say in Virginia or in California or anything like that?
We're starting to do, looking into some of the areas. So we do have 2 people that are out of state. We have one person that lives outside of Chicago, and we have another person in Florida at work. And so, we can go, outside to, other areas. And we've started really looking at that. And then that goes back to, Greg was saying is, building the culture, keeping everybody, on task and stuff, through that. But a lot of people have been doing it. I mean, since 2020, 2020 was like, a flash of here, let's go do this, let's change everything that we've ever done. And okay, we got through it. And so now let's look at trying to work that system in and how that can help us, like you're saying, reach other people. It definitely broadens your talent pool so that you can go into other areas. It also makes it easier for, somebody that's in a remote area like Montana. There might be somebody, Billings, Montana, where, there's not that many, jobs, but they can, get into the market and, work in other areas. So yes, it's been good, really.
So Shannon, how do you, knowing that today's employees are much more engaged in some ways than they've ever been before, they have a lot more flexibility, they have a lot more demand, maybe even from, I don't think this is necessarily a generational, divide, but, different priorities. When we were all growing up, it was, go get a job, work hard and, prove yourself. But now there's a lot more entrepreneurial spirit, even within the employees. How do you attract the employees that are a good fit for you so you're not wasting time, energy, and money?
Right. I think a lot of it is looking at, what their what their background has been, where, what industry they're coming from or who they've worked for. And then we're building something that's kind of different in the market because we're not focused on just insurance. We have a wealth management affiliate company. We have a CPA tax accounting affiliate, and also we have other areas that we do. So it's we're cross selling between each
That's
one of
pretty
those
cool.
each one of those different financial services. So we're trying to be a one-stop shop. Actually, one of the goals this year is to bring on more of some legal side where we can do trust, areas in there that are going to help small businesses. So we're doing that, and then they're expanding the CPA firm as well. And so we can bring in those different things and be more of a one-stop shop for a lot of these small businesses because, they don't have the resources, to go out there and try to, hire 6 different companies to do this. A lot of the back end, like we were talking about, we can spread that over the different types of business channels, right? And so because some of the people that do a lot of tax preparation of actually filing online returns, they're slow, 4 or 5 months out of the year. Well, we can bring them in and then help them, have them help us grow like the insurance side or the wealth management side, increasing that business. And so it kind of more balances out and we can offer more at a better price to these smaller entrepreneurs and business owners.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So going along with that, right? It sounds like you guys are really moving more towards a solutions provider, right? Versus just specifically, pigeonholing into one line of business.
It's more of a consulting. It's more like a consulting form. Consulting firm, platform, really. And so where you're helping with several different areas, and we hope to get into some others on there as well. But that's the overall vision for the company, solutions provider to all these different organizations.
Interesting. So speaking of vision, what is y'all's vision, right? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal?
Well, so the big one, from the insurance side is, we want to, within the 10-year mark, we're trying to get to $20 million in, book of business. And so, and also we want to try to bring on 4,000 clients. That's going to be adding about probably 33 a month to, get to that over that time period. But I think we can, achieve that and hopefully surpass it. Which I look and say, okay, here's a goal we set and we want to try to accomplish the goal. And so we haven't set any like really crazy things, but, I think it's going to take some, work for us. Right now we're at $2 million. So we're basically 10xing, what our current, book of business is right now.
But to be able to have that wide offering and that depth and breadth to be able to pull people in from different areas and start serving them, supporting them, and then bringing value in one area and then expanding it. This is something that I bet Chris is just kind of salivating at, to be just how awesome would it be to easily communicate clearly and concisely. But if it's one thing entrepreneurs don't have enough of, it's time. And if it's one thing that CFOs hate, and I can attest to this, is dealing with 7 different insurance brokers, because I've got this type of insurance that's not covered by this one, this one, this one, this one. And so to be able to kind of come in and just be like, hey, you're my insurance guy, and you handle and you manage and you facilitate, you quarterback, whatever you want to call it, everything, that is so valuable.
Yeah. And like we're adding, like you're saying, we're adding group health insurance, now as well. So that's a new piece that we're starting to bring on because there was a need. There's definitely a need out there in the market for it. And so we were like, we need to, like you said, it's solving problems. Here's a problem that a lot of these small business owners are doing. A lot of them don't have insurance because, the cost is, so high. So what can we put together to, help them with that? And so that's another area that we've been working on really since the beginning of the year to get that in place. so that we can start offering that as well.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much for allowing us to kind of understand a little bit more about what's going on in your business and how you are attracting and retaining and keeping and growing your people and your firm. Let's pause before we roll into the lightning round for a message from this episode's sponsor. Okay, we're back. All right, Shannon, we're into the lightning round. So the one rule, you've got 30 seconds to answer each one of these questions. Let's kick it off with, what is your favorite personal hack? This could be a book, a podcast, Aggie growth hacks, maybe, or something that you on a personal basis that we can learn from you.
I think the biggest one, and I don't know, it's not a book or podcast, but I think the original quote came from Mark Twain, where he said, "Eat the frog first."
Yeah.
So one of the things I try to do is do the first thing in the morning, the things that I don't like to do, whether it's, making cold calls or if it's dealing on somebody's claim that, working on, because that's never fun. So that's something that I've been doing for a long time, is, getting the things that I like to do the least I've done the very first thing in the morning when I got.
So if you're a bad performer and Shannon wants to see you at 7:30 in the morning, it's not going to be a good day.
Exactly. Yes. Right. Yeah. All the meetings that are not good meetings happen early in the morning.
All right. So next question, what is your favorite business hack then? This could be a book, podcast, whatever, anything goes.
I do like Atomic Habits. I really like that a lot. We've tried to, we pick a book every 2 weeks or so, depending on the size of the book, and we'll have everybody, read it. And then, we'll go back over and talk about, 2 or 3 weeks later. It's kind of like a book club, but, we do it in one of our Zoom meetings and just, talk about that. And I think Atomic Habits was one that impacted people the most. I'll say the other one, I think, was also Who Moved My Cheese, as well, because of the change. That was one that we did back during COVID. And so, but it's still relevant today. I mean, it's a good one.
100%. And, in today's business, it never doesn't change. So being able to be adaptive and willing change is a critical skill.
The big part is the attitude. It's like, look, this is going to happen regardless, whether you're, sad, happy, whatever your personal reaction is, the instance is still going to happen. So it's more about how you react to it and what your personal feelings are.
Shannon, what's the best bit of advice that you've ever been given, and how have you applied it?
Back, I worked like you. I'd been in the banking and lending industry, before coming to insurance, and I had a senior vice president that I worked with, and it amazed me. Like, he knew everybody's name and knew stuff about them, and we're talking about 700 plus employees that he managed, and it just astounded me. And so I think, I was talking to him about it, and he was like, well, one of the biggest thing is you treat everybody the same, whether it's the janitor or the CEO. And, and I think that's also how you were talking earlier about retaining, employees. If they don't feel like they're just a number or something being there, and you have them be a part of the company, be a part of decision making and stuff, and you care about what their input is, I think that's how you keep them and grow them. And so that was a big thing that's stuck with me. I mean, this has been 23 years. That was in 2000. So yeah, that's a big point to me.
Love that.
Good advice.
Love that. Yeah. Okay. So Shannon, how can the Aggie Growth Hacks family get in touch with you and help support you and encourage you?
Right. So we have our website, which is keencoverage.com. Like I said, we're starting to hire more people now in different areas. So we're looking for licensed real estate agents. Licensed insurance agents for P&C, and now health and life too. So, I think that's the biggest thing. Or anybody that's a small business owner that just wants to talk about what they have, or have us, look at it and say, yes, this is fine. You should stick with this, or here's some things that I saw, and you might want to revisit that. So I think that's the biggest thing, and just continue to share our company out there, really.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today. Ags, you heard him. If you're in the insurance world or you want to get into the insurance world, and I think I heard you say you're opening up a location here in Aggie Land. So if you want to come back home, then make sure you reach out to Shannon. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. We appreciate it so much.
Really enjoy it and enjoy what you guys are doing and the Aggie hack. So gig 'em.
Well, how about that, Ags? Was that pretty awesome or what? I know that I have a full page of notes here, right, that I took down. I had a lot that I took away from Shannon's interview here. Mm-hmm. What was your favorite ones there, Greg?
Well, I love how, as Shannon was explaining the dynamics of what they're building, and we kind of talked a little bit about client, or not client, but employee engagement, retention. How do you find them? I think that one of the things that struck me, or one thing that's key about it, is their book club. And this is not the first time that we've had an entrepreneur say that, hey, we have a book club and we kind of bring leadership together. But what I think that is so critical on this is that as you're bringing in some of those different personalities from different types of companies, that it requires a lot of shared vision, shared paradigm to look at how you serve your clients. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, one of the best ways is through collective learning, book sharing, all that stuff. And of course, Atomic Habits is one of the best books that's out there, because it talks about getting better incrementally and getting better in ways that are habit building. So it doesn't seem like it's a huge task to be able to do something. So I love that passion. I love just the thought process behind that. What about you, Chris? What was in your list of things? What was the number one that you maybe pulled out?
So as a book geek, I have to agree with yours. Obviously, I love books. I love, and honestly, I don't do that in my organization. I think I need to pull that into ours to do that. I guess my biggest takeaway, though, was really how they have transitioned into becoming a solutions provider versus just an insurance company, right? I mean, if you think about most companies, they've got the blinders on. Most small businesses, right, that are growing, they have the blinders on. This is what we do. This is who we serve. But then they started expanding that, okay, with these different lines of coaching, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. Because it makes perfect sense. Small businesses, for the most part, we're out there on an island by ourselves, right? I mean, we have to figure all this stuff out, and we have to wear so many hats. But if we don't have someone that we can go to ask, hey, is this, going to be a legal problem for me, right? Or how do I deal with this situation in accounting? If we don't have those people in our back pocket, that's really hard, and it can turn into all sorts of problems as a small business. But if you do have someone that you can go to, like Shannon, and say, hey, I've got this problem, and he just simply goes out and finds that person to help you, that's great, and I absolutely love that, and expanding their mission from an insurance company to a solutions provider is really awesome. I love how they're doing that. I
couldn't agree more. And we've had other insurance providers on Aggie Growth Hacks. I'm thinking back to Jackson Rollo with Rollo Insurance. And I mean, they're a great example of a fast growing insurance company, and they've got a wealth management division. But what I love about what Shannon and his group are doing is bringing in the CPA, bringing in the attorney. I mean, it's like having, everyone says that every entrepreneur needs a bail team. Your banker, your attorney, or your banker, your accountant, your insurance agent, and your lawyer. And literally, the banking is maybe banking that's personal banking versus commercial banking. But with Shannon's company, you've got the bail team in one company or under one roof. And that's pretty awesome. Very dynamic.
Love it.
Well, Alex, that's going to do it for this episode of Aggie Growth Hacks. So we hope that you enjoyed it. If you're not connected with Shannon and his team, please connect him. He's an ag that loves to talk insurance, loves to make sure that you have all the options, the information that you need. Hey, and if you're an insurance agent that is looking to come back home to Aggie Land and maybe start up and be part of his team here, I'm sure he'd love to talk to you about that. If you're not connected to Aggie Growth Hacks on the webs, on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Chris and I, make sure that you do that. And finally, if you could just do us a huge favor and give a big gig 'em thumbs up to this episode and subscribe, maybe share Aggie Growth Hacks so that we can get this message out to other ags.
We want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M University. Since 1999, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship has served as the hub of entrepreneurship for Texas A&M. If you're an Aggie entrepreneur or even a wantrepreneur, head on over to their website right now to find a program that's right for you. Just go to aggiegrowthhacks.com/McFerrin right now. Well, Ags, join us next time when we connect with another great Aggie entrepreneur and learn how they hack their growth. Until then, I'm Chris Hunter.
And I'm Greg Martin. Thanks and gig 'em.